afternoon. I'm Shawnee Au, and this is One News Now. Malacanang confirms that President Duterte wants face shields to be worn only in hospitals. For the details, News 5's Maricel Halili joins us live from Mandaluyong City. Hi, Mase. So, does this finally mean that people can finally start ditching face shields when going out or when outdoors? Does this finally or officially translate to policy?
Hi, Sean. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that it is true that President Duterte said last night that there's no need to wear face shield and it is only required to be worn every time an individual is in the hospital. But then Secretary Roque also said that there is no resolution yet. But since it was the president who already announced it, it means that it is already considered as a policy. But this afternoon, the members of the Interagency Task Force will be having a meeting. Secretary Roque said that he will bring up the issue before the members of the IATF to discuss the matter, considering that a number of medical experts, or majority of the medical experts, still believe that there is still a need to use face shields, especially in crowded areas and in indoor areas because there is lack of ventilation. And so he will bring this issue before the members of the IATF and they will make a decision if they should make an appeal before the president.
All right, so we might have some word or some clarity on that finally within this week. On another topic, Mase, of course, as vaccines from abroad continue to arrive, have officials already provided updates on our own vaccine development here in the Philippines? Are there any efforts?
Yes, this is led by Dr. Austriaco of the University of Santo Tomas. They are actually producing or trying to produce an oral vaccination against COVID-19. Now they are coordinating, or Father Austriaco is coordinating with the management of the University of Santo Tomas. He is actually forming a team to study this particular vaccine. They're in the process of preparing the documents needed for the approval of the animal trial and then eventually clinical trial for this oral vaccine. Their target is to have an approval by mid next year. Father Austriaco said that they are actually getting fundings from the private sector. But Secretary Roque said that if proven that this has huge potential, maybe they can also use funding from the Department of Science and Technology, and they can expect a prize from President Duterte himself.
All right, looking forward to that. Now, on the matter of COVID-19 variants, did OCTA have anything to say about current measures against the possibility of the entrance of new variants?
There is a huge possibility of the entrance of the new variants. Father Austriaco said that he thinks that it is still effective to require all those Filipinos coming from other countries to be quarantined for 10 days because there is no sufficient evidence that 7 days are enough to make sure that the virus won't spread. Of course, he is also supporting that the vaccination will be focused on those areas that have a huge number of COVID-19 cases. So he thinks that it is effective that the national government has decided to focus first on the NCR+. But of course, the policy now of the government is to monitor the areas outside NCR+, considering that there's also a surge in Visayas and Mindanao. And the order of the president is to distribute the vaccines to those areas that obviously have surges.
All right, moving on to another topic, Mase, the ICC probe into Duterte's drug war. Any updates or changes on the position of the palace on that, with regards, of course, to cooperating with the probe?
Well, it's still the same, Sean. The palace is not willing to cooperate with the probe of the ICC. But then Secretary Roque said that he already gave President Duterte a number of documents about the proposal of Fatou Bensouda to start the investigation on the drug war here in the Philippines. And based on the 52 pages documents that they have gathered, it seems that the only evidence that they have, at least according to Secretary Roque, are those articles coming from some media outlets. And as a lawyer, he thinks that these articles, based on the news items of some news organizations, are not enough to prove that the government is not doing well when it comes to drug war. And it's not enough to prove that the government is violating human rights. So he thinks that this move coming from the prosecutor, coming from the ICC, is not a big deal, and that he's confident that this will not push through.
And did the palace explain, Mase, how President Duterte was bypassed on this vote backing a probe into the Gaza conflict? Any clarity on that?
Secretary Roque said that President Duterte expressed his opinion on the matter. He said that he was not consulted about the issue, but President is not into micromanaging decisions of government agencies, including the Department of Foreign Affairs. Secretary Roque said that, well, President Duterte obviously is not in favor of the vote that was made by our representative. But the question is, can we withdraw the vote made by our representative? Well, that we cannot. Secretary Roque said that we cannot do that. So President Duterte technically just expressed his opinion on the matter.
All right, thanks for clearing that one up. Now, on the president's possible bid for vice president in next year's national elections, do we have something new on that?
There is still no clear decision coming from President Duterte himself, whether he's still willing to run for vice presidency or he will just support the candidacy of Representative Martin Romualdez should he decide to run as for vice president. So like what Secretary Roque mentioned previously, we're still waiting for the decision of President Duterte.
All right, thank you so much for all those updates across all those topics. Maricel Halili joining us live from Mandaluyong City. And over 7.5 million COVID-19 vaccines have been administered across the country. Some 5.5 million shots were used as first doses, while around 2 million were given as second and final doses. Majority of those who have been fully immunized came from the A1 priority group or health workers. We'll be back with more stories after this quick break. Stay with us. still watching One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. Despite the downtrend in COVID-19 cases here in Metro Manila, the health department says that some areas are still classified as high risk. Camille Samonte with that story.
Metro Manila has come a long way since COVID-19 cases peaked early this year. Daily cases dropped after the implementation of stricter lockdown measures, and hospitals have now reached the low-risk category. The health department reports utilization rate of ICUs and critical care beds has decreased to around 50%. But despite this positive development, some areas in NCR are still classified as high risk. These include Makati and Muntinlupa.
Sa data tracker po natin, mapapansin naman talaga natin na bumababa talagang number of new cases. Meron nga lang talagang cities, sinabi ko kasi kanina, yung Muntinlupa at saka Makati, medyo nasa critical risk or high risk position. Pero collectively sa buong NCR, number of ICU beds, both for public and private, bababa naman po ang utilization 50%. Low risk category talaga ang kabuuan collectively for Metro Manila.
At the hospital ng Muntinlupa, the ICU and emergency room have reached full capacity. According to its director, Dr. Edwin Di Matatak, the facility only has a few beds available to begin with. This is the reason why it's easily filled with new patients, including those from the nearby LGUs.
Medyo nag-i-increase pero too early to say na talagang nagsisurge ulit. Relatively sa ICU and sabi ko nga ICU and COVID floor, mas marami talaga ever since ang ICU. So ibig mas nauna niyang na-reach yung 100% utilization ng ICU.
Di Matatak said they noticed an increase in admission of COVID-19 patients when quarantine restrictions started easing in the NCR Plus bubble. When the ECQ was implemented back in April, around 50 to 60 COVID patients were admitted in the facility. This rose to around 80 patients over the past weeks. Utilization rate of their ICU beds also climbed from 6 to 12. Di Matatak says Ospital ng Muntinlupa can still accept patients as long as there's still space. But he warns the public not to be complacent.
Merong nakaamba na surge. May nakaamba. Oo. So, siyempre, ayoko naman sabihin, punta lang kayo dito. Oo. Hindi, ready. Totoo naman yung ready. May nakaamba, so mag-iingat, no? Kasi nga, medyo patas. Ako, aminado ako doon. From 60, nagiging 80. From 6, nagiging, ang ICU, nagiging 12.
The City Health Office of Muntinlupa also admits that the cases in the city have started to increase. Around 40 new cases have been reported in the city in the span of 2 weeks.
Yung gathering of people, so bumabalik na naman yung kanilang mga request na magkaroon sila ng like meeting or gathering. So doon kami nagkakaroon ng problem. It's not an issue of yung the restrictions. It's the people na talagang gusto nilang to move around, no? Yung magkaroon ng gathering.
The LGU urges establishments allowed to reopen to strictly implement health protocols. Currently, the active cases in Muntinlupa stands at 425. The LGU has also started inoculations for the A5 priority group. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Here are other stories we're keeping our eyes on. PDP Laban President and Senator Manny Pacquiao will not be attending the ruling party's National Assembly on July 17. Pacquiao said that any resolution or decision that will come out of that quote unauthorized meeting will be ignored. PDP Laban Executive Vice Chairman Coco Pimentel has also begged off from this assembly, which will be led by Party Vice Chairman Alfonso Cusi. And Senator Richard Gordon wants the government's COVID-19 task force to allow the deployment of nurses to Qatar. Gordon said that the 2 batches of nurses scheduled to take the licensure exams will replace the 5,000 health workers that have already been deployed overseas. The senator added that Qatar is in need of additional nurses as the country prepares to host the FIFA World Cup next year. And with the Tokyo Olympics just a month away, anti-doping organizations, or ADOs, worldwide are ramping up their drug testing of athletes. The Global Doping Watchdog reports that over 24,000 samples have been collected by 152 ADOs as of May 2021. For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.
Ready anytime. Okay.